HELPtalk. Today's going to be a little bit different. Why? Well, because I messed up the scheduling, to be honest. And so my guest that was going to be here to talk to us about how she spreads joy, well, I didn't quite get it on her calendar. We talked about it, but I erred. And part of that reason why I erred is because I have so many things going on. And I thought what I would do today, rather than cancel the show altogether, is talk about what's going on in the world of startups and entrepreneurship and finding out all of the issues that people are experiencing right now, because I do talk to a lot of other founders. It pushed me forward to say, yeah, you know what? I want to have today's session because there are a lot of entrepreneurs who are struggling right now. Everyone is talking about how difficult it became last year to get in front of businesses. Even Google ads and social media and Facebook ads, the ROI is not there anymore. So, how do you get in front of your target audience when there's so much noise and chatter? And there's so many apps that filter ads. So, if you can't afford to spend 5,000 a month, which is the minimum that my amazing and brilliant digital ads guy says is the bare minimum bogey. If you can't afford to do that, and all of these people are using blockers to prevent seeing the ads pop up, what do you do? How do you get in front of the audience? We'll come back to that. Another thing that founders are struggling with is that we are in the midst of an investment winter, and it is a prolonged investment winter. Call it what you will. It's the R word that none of the economists want to say, right? Recession, because we've sort of been there, but we keep changing the definition or how long you have to have a issue with respect to the government economy and balance and bringing in the gross domestic product and where we're bringing in more versus spending, the deficits, right? All of these numbers and things and how many months of unemployment, job growth, blah, blah. All of the stuff that goes into figuring out how healthy our economy is. So they haven't said it's dark and gloomy, but everybody is pretty much agreed that it's not great. So with the investment winter continuing to be a protracted thing, and it's understandable too, because if I'm an investor and I worked and did whatever I did to secure that money, that I can then either be philanthropic about it or make a smart investment. And smart is the key word, where I want to put the money that I have into somebody else to help them along so that I can grow my investment and see that 10x return that everybody dreams about. I can afford to be a little bit selective about whom I invest in. So, with that investment winter continuing on the way that it has, it's becoming even more difficult for startup founders to get the angels behind them. I've seen the trend over the last couple of years. The angels act more like the venture capitalists now, which some call the vulture capitalists, but we're not going to go there. They've got to be particular about how they spend money, so I don't think that's a good name for them. But the angel investors are acting much more like venture capitalists, where they're looking at your returns, they're looking at your projected forecast, they're looking at your pipeline, they're looking at all of these things. Whereas in the not so distant past, like 2 years ago, investors, angel types, would be looking at you and saying, yep, you know what? I think you've got something good. I am aligned with your values. I like the team you've put together. You've got a great concept. I'm going to bet on you and the product, and less so the company. Now it's all about placing the bet only if it's a close to a sure bet based on all of the financials, which makes it difficult because if you are still moving through that, as you call it, the valley of death as a startup founder, which I know well, right? You get into that phase where you create and then you release. And then you're in that valley of death as you're trying to get out of it and morph and pivot. And I've pivoted so many times. I don't know why my head's not spinning a la Linda Blair Exorcist, but you keep pivoting and morphing until you get to that product market fit. And then there you are. You've got the model that works. And then you rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Then you get into the land and that curve that all of the investors love, which is all about making money at scale. Then you get into it and you can start to harvest all of that. But as a founder, a bootstrap founder, I am not in that harvest phase yet. We are still just coming out of that valley of death where we've got all of the bits and pieces lined up. We're starting to win some of those lucrative awards. We're getting some of that traction, that attention that we've been seeking as we've been building, and it's starting to come together. How do you stay positive through this? People ask me all of the time. Well, I am a cancer survivor, nearly 20 years. So that teaches you something about the value of life and where you should get wrapped around an axle or not. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and the divorce left me with nothing. I lost absolutely everything. So I've recovered from that, and that was really hard to get through. I've also had to go through so many machinations of the team, of this, of that. And I've not only started 4 companies myself, 1 consulting company and 2 startups and a nonprofit with somebody else, Helpopedia, right, which is the focus here, but I have been part of about 8 or 9 other startups, and it's the same thing. You struggle to get in front of your audience, and it's about finding ways to stay positive and taking advice, like not just taking it, but proactively seeking it, but then applying a filter so that you can be clear on which advice that you need. Is it coming from not only a person that you trust, but somebody who is truly making an impact on people like you, other startup founders, other coachees, or whomever it is. And when you've gotten through it and filtered out the advice and figure out, what do I really want? What do I not want? Where do I go with this? That's when you start to find your path and get into your rhythm. And there's really 2 ways to do that. And these are, my big tips of the session here with HELPtalk for all of the other founders who might be struggling with trying to get in front of their customers, struggling with product market fit, struggling trying to get investments because of this protracted investment winter that we're in. 2 things. 1, give yourself permission to fail. And as cheesy and cliche and whatever else that sounds, and it doesn't mean like, oh, it's okay, I failed my whole startup. No, just you failed on one approach. But then this is the second tip. You gave yourself space to think about it and pause long enough to understand, why did I fail? Why didn't that go to plan? Why didn't that outcome end up the way that I had hoped it to be? Right? You really think about that. And to give yourself that space to think, oh my God, it's my favorite thing. I look at it as such a luxury on those days where I don't need to be camera ready. And there are a few because, like everybody else, I always have 10,000 calls in a day. But every once in a while, I just get that day where I can be skeezy, greasy hair, not even showered. Sometimes I stay in the pajamas the whole day and I just sit and think in peace, in silence, in total quiet, no distractions, no phone calls. And I think, if this, then what? If this, then what? What am I really trying to achieve? Where am I spreading myself too thin like peanut butter, which is what I do because I'm one of those people that never say no. Oh, you need that? You need help? Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Sure. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then I end up being pulled into so many different directions that I don't get the things that I need to get done. I always get the number 1 burning priority done, even if I have to stay awake all night to do it. I'll knock it out. But I may not get to the second or third thing because I compromised my time to do something else. So give yourself that space to think, because you've given yourself permission to fail at a certain thing or initiative or some aspect of your startup business. And then use that time to figure out, how do you pull it together? How do you give yourself that life buoy, right? That ring, that life ring, because it's not likely that somebody else is going to throw it out to you. As a startup founder, you've gone down this path. You are determined, you are aligned with your why, you have a goal in mind, and you've got to go after it. Don't give up, keep going, and give yourself that time to think and that space to figure out, how do I get a life buoy thrown to myself so that I can get out of this swamp or quicksand or icy water or whatever it is? Because I see the shore, I see where I want to go. Go for it. Don't give up. I wish you and all of the startup founders and entrepreneurs who are listening to this tremendous success. And if not tremendous success in 2024, maybe it's next year. But I really do sincerely wish that you will find peace and just a little of that pressure that's on you, that you find a way to get some of that off and find some relief through some even incremental successes, because they all add up. Do not